it looks like we are just going to be recording this session and then posting it on Facebook. So apologies to our Facebook Live watchers who are seeing this not live, but for those of you who are joining us on the Zoom session, thank you for joining us for the last session of this evening of the fourth day of National Blind Sports Week presented by Healthy Vision Association. And this session is obviously just going to be a informal conversation between NFB of Colorado's Vice President, Jessica Beecham, and USABA's Executive Director, Mark Lucas. So without further ado, I'm just going to hand it over to these two to have a candid conversation about their two organizations and what programs they're both currently offering in this virtual world that we live in. So, Mark Lucas.
Jess Beecham, how are you?
I am fantastic because it is National Blind Sports Week as well as the kickoff of our National Federation of the Blind of Colorado 6-Dash.
Right on. It's good to see your smiling face. It's been a while.
Yes, sir.
You are a RT, a registered therapist, and you went to Middle Tennessee University. Is that correct?
Middle Tennessee State. Yes, sir.
Tennessee State. I need to bone up on my universities in Tennessee.
Well, they don't have a football team. That's the trouble. Nobody knows who they are.
Why did you major in rec therapy? And Kat Beaucamp is also a rec therapist, and I also went to Cal State Northridge University and studied to be a rec therapist. So why did you decide on RT?
I chose to major in therapeutic recreation because I really felt like that how we spend our free time, our leisure time is so critical to our health and our happiness and our overall state of well-being. And I wanted to help more people find positive and productive ways to spend their leisure time. And I especially am passionate about working with individuals with disabilities since I'm a blind woman. And so that's kind of why I fell into that path.
So you are an active member, and thanks for sharing that and why you decided to become an RT. And so with that said, you are a key member of the National Federation of the Blind. And how does your background in RT affect the membership within the National Federation of the Blind?
Absolutely. Well, the great thing about the National Federation of the Blind is that there are so many different opportunities to get involved and to participate actively to help blind people live the lives that we want. And so one of the ways that I've chosen to spend a lot of my time nationally is in the National Sports and Recreation Division. So I'm our president of the National Sports and Rec Division. And so throughout the year, we try to do different activities for members. We have activities during our national convention, particularly when we meet in person. This year we didn't meet in person, but we had a huge presence on Facebook, and we really just engaged people around getting moving, and we try to work to further policy that will help create more accessible equipment and more accessible spaces for us to get moving. And we also just try to serve as peer mentors for one another to encourage people that maybe you just lost your vision and you're not quite sure if you can still go mountain trail running or be a rower or climb mountains or swim across oceans or any of those things. And so we just try to share our lived experiences to help people know that you absolutely can do almost anything that you want to, unless you want to be a race car driver, and then maybe you can, but it might be a little more difficult.
Well, I'm going to get off on a tangent here, but I have been in the field of blindness for 30 some years. And when I first started off in the field, I thought a blind person could do anything except for one thing. And that was be a Indy race car driver. But now I believe sometime in my lifetime, that could possibly happen. So what do you think about blind people doing anything, including being a race car driver? Was my misconception often? I always apologize to myself for having that -1 stereotype. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't know, but if there's a way, I'm sure we'll figure it out. And one really cool thing is that the National Federation of the Blind did work to build a car that we could drive ourselves. We worked with engineering students from Virginia Tech, and we actually did build that car, and our president, Mark Riccobono, drove it independently on the Daytona Speedway. So a blind person certainly has driven on a major racetrack. Whether we'll be
Fantastic.
race car drivers or not.
Right. I think there will be. That is all stereotypes are off the table, and there is nothing I believe that a blind person can't do. The National Federation of the Blind. Tell us about the organization. And what I'm intrigued about more than anything is the tagline, "Live the lives we want." Tell us about NFB and the tagline.
Absolutely. So, I mean, basically, I think our 1 minute message sums it up really well. And the National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise expectations because we know that low expectations create barriers between us and our dreams. And you can live the life you want. And blindness is not going to be the characteristics that hold you back. So, I mean, really, what that means is that we as blind people, we believe in each other. We know that blind people can do what we want, and we know that one of the biggest barriers that we face is misconceptions of other people about our potential or about our abilities. And so really what we have to do is just to raise expectations within ourselves and to raise the expectations that other people have of blind people.
Right. And what are some of those misconceptions then? What
Sure.
are some of the misconceptions that a typical sighted person would have?
Well, I mean, obviously, the employment rate of blind people is lower. So there is certainly, at least statistically, some misconception about blind people being able to perform jobs on equal footing with sighted people, which is just not true. If we have the appropriate accommodations and tools, we can do that. There are people that don't think blind people should use sharp knives or should cook in the kitchen, and we can be top chefs like Christina Ha. There are people who wouldn't dream of a blind person being a scientist, but there are tons of blind chemists and out there. And I mean, really, anything that you can think of, there are just all the time people will come up and, oh, can I help you? Can I help you? Assuming that that you don't know how to complete a task, or that you don't know where you're doing or where you're going, or different
Right,
things like
right.
that. And so it can be from the very simple to some of the just, well, I'd never really thought about a blind person doing this, so that's why I didn't know, kind of thing.
Right. And so sports, recreation, and physical activity, back to our major, back to what we do. How does sports, recreation, and physical activity, if at all, play into reducing the unemployment rate? Do you see any correlation?
Well, I think that when you are really active and you feel strong and you feel confident in your ability, that there's going to be a different attitude and mindset when you go in for a job interview. You're
Right,
also going to have better stamina to be able to get through the day, particularly if you have a job that involves a lot of standing, walking, lifting, that kind of thing. So I think that there's less sick days, better emotional and mental well-being, which is all going to play a part into helping us be better employees. And I always feel like that as a blind person, if we can perform better than our sighted peers, we're going to have an even better chance. And so for me, being physically active and doing some of those really challenging things, meeting those big goals that I have, are all a part of helping me be a better professional.
Absolutely. Tell us, and feel free to have the dialogue back and forth because I keep asking the questions. And so if you have some for me, feel free to do that. And the same with those who are listening tonight, feel free to start asking your questions now. So when we hit we can entertain those questions anytime during this presentation. Jess, tell us, if you would, the difference between NFB and ACB. Is there a difference between the two organizations?
So the National Federation of the Blind and the American Council of the Blind are both consumer blindness organizations, meaning that they're both organizations made up of blind people.
Right?
But it's kind of like choosing your church, whether you want to be a Baptist or Methodist or anything else. There are certainly going to be fundamental differences. And so what I always encourage people to do is look at both, look at the philosophy of both organizations and figure out which one best aligns with your views on blindness and life and that sort of thing. And that's probably going to be the place where you'll plug in best and best be able to get involved.
What do you think are the biggest philosophical differences between NFB and ACB?
That's a really tough question. Um, I I think, well, so I guess I would say this. The National Federation of the Blind has a larger national headquarters, if you will. So it's more, much of our efforts are centered out of our headquarters in Baltimore.
Right.
Whereas I believe, and I'm not a member of the American Council of the Blind, so I can't speak to this extraordinarily well. So if anyone is listening that is a member, I apologize if I'm getting something wrong. I'm certainly not intending to misrepresent at all. But I think that a lot of the efforts are more driven by individual states. There's less of a larger national unit presence. So I think what that does is we have a lot more uniformity um, in in our branding and in our efforts to push forward legislation and things like that. I mean, I assume that obviously both organizations want to improve the lives of blind people. So
Right,
I mean,
right.
I think that you're not going to find a big difference there. And I guess I just am not as well enough versed in the philosophy of the American Council of the Blind to be able to say, to nitpick it at a very granular level. So
Mhm.
that's my best answer.
In one year, I went to the convention, the NFB convention, and one of the things of many that I was extremely impressed was just how tight each of the state chapters are of NFB. Can you speak to that and then maybe talk a little bit about the Colorado chapter?
Absolutely. So every state affiliate, has members all across their states, and we have affiliates in all of our states, and so, it is great. We have chapters, and those chapters make up the affiliate, and then some people also are in at-large chapters, and really you become a family. And we have a great Colorado family here. So in our Colorado family, we have chapters all across the state of Colorado, in Boulder, Colorado Springs. We're rebuilding right now in Fort Collins. we've got a presence in Grand Junction and in Greeley and in several in different parts of the Denver area. And then we have our at-large chapter, which meets on the phone so that people from all over the state can get together. And so we really just try to show a lot of love to each other and support each other. And I often say that, you know, one of the best things I found in the National Federation of the Blind is that people believed in me sometimes more than I believed in myself, just because there was that inherent belief that there's nothing that blind people can't do. And I think
Right.
that's the glue that holds everyone together.
Fantastic. Well said. Tell us about the 6 Dot for Dash event that's coming up, and then we could segue maybe into National Blind Sports Day. But tell us about 6 Dot for Dash event.
So the 6 Dash is our largest annual fundraiser in the National Federation of the Blind of Colorado, and this is our third annual 6 Dash. Now, typically they're in person, and last year we did have our first virtual component, but that was just one little piece of it. And so typically they are much like a festival. We have music and we have food trucks and we have free beer, and we have a big expo with tons of tables and hundreds of people and really great energy. And this year with COVID, we had to figure out how can we bring that same energy and fun and bang and pizzazz to our virtual event. And so
Right.
that's one of the reasons we're so excited to be partnering with USABA on our first day to kick off the 6 Dash, because USABA always brings the fun to the party. And so we're really excited to be partnering with you guys as we kick off the event. So this year, in addition to a typical 5K, which our race is typically a 5K, participants have the option to collect their miles throughout October 1 through November 8th. You can log your miles every day and see how far you can get across the state of Colorado, or you can join a team and log your miles collectively with a team and see how far you can get across the United States. And now, Mark, I think we have a commonality here. I think you're going to join a team, right?
I am going to join a team,
Which team are you going to join?
I'm figuring out who's going to bribe me the most. I'm trying. How many teams will there be
Oh,
throughout
there
the
can
US?
be as many teams, so anybody can start a team. So if you're
Right.
out there listening and you have a few friends and you want to start a team and see if you can make it from LA to Kansas, or however far you think you might make it. Even, I mean, making it out of the state of Colorado is a big, I mean, of California would be a big accomplishment. It's such a big state. But anybody can sign up their team. So you'll have the option when you go to www.6-co.com. That's www.6-co.com. You'll click on registration. Once you go there, you'll have the option to enter a 5K or an individual challenge or a team challenge. And if you enter a team, then you'll either be able to have a drop down list of teams that already exist and you can join one of those teams, and I'm sure anybody would be glad to have you on their team, or you can choose to start your own team. So there could even be a USABA team if you guys wanted to have a USABA team.
Oh, cool. Cool. And do you have to be a runner to join?
Absolutely not. So you can be a runner, you can be a walker, you can be a roller, you can be whatever mode you want to collect your miles is great.
How do you collect your miles? What do you use a Fitbit or your Apple Watch or?
So we're on the honors system with
Okay.
with the mileage
Okay.
collection, and so you'll just log them into the results site.
Right. Cool. That's exciting. And then National Blind Sports Days this Saturday. This is going to be our third annual United States Association of Blind Athletes National Blind Sports Day. And you'll be coming out Saturday?
Absolutely. I've got my running shoes all ready to go.
Yes, and we're looking at 30, 40 communities across the United States participating in any age, any ability, parents, kids, blind people, guides, pilots, whatever you want to do, hop, skip, jump, throw your Facebook social media post out there and promote blind people out playing and recreating as you talked about earlier, Jess, on how important it is for us all to recreate and do physical activity on a daily basis. So we're going to open it up to some questions. And Jess, what did we miss tonight that you think is important for people to know about sports and recreation and physical activity?
I think the most important thing to know is that you will feel better and you'll live better if you do it. And right now, with Blind Sports Week, as well as the kickoff of the 6-Dash, if you're not moving as much as you would like to, it's a great opportunity to get started. So even if you take 500 steps one day, and then the next day you take 1,000 steps, and then the next day you take 1,500 steps, that is absolutely moving in the right direction, and that is going to make you feel great.
Fantastic. We have some questions from the audience, and Cody has a question, and I think we both know Cody Bear. So Cody, fire away.
Sorry about that. I'm actually must have pocket raised my hand, but actually didn't have a question. But thanks for everybody for joining, and we're excited to have everybody participate in our 6-Dash.
And Cody is one. Cody is one of the major organizers of the 6-Dash, and along with Maureen Neatfelt, myself, Kevin Worley, Julie Deeden, Dan Burke, and there's a ton of people who work really, really, really hard to make the 6-Dash happen each year, and Cody certainly deserves a big round of applause for that. So
Right on, Cody. Thanks for your work in that space. We had another question, Kat.
From Kevin Worley.
Kevin Worley.
Hi there. I just wanted to say that part of the reason that I got so into this at my age is because of USABA and Blind Sports Week and the fitness challenge, Mark, that you guys organized, and that motivated me, and seeing the goal ball stuff that you young folks can do motivated me. So for me, I think if it wasn't for USABA and some of the work you guys have done for blind folks, I wouldn't have naturally been able to grow into doing a lot of the stuff that the sports and fitness crowd, Jessica, Maureen, those guys do. So I just thank you guys for what you do for this community as well.
hey, Kevin, how many miles are you going to get this month?
So I'm going to get in 5 weeks. Thank you. Oh, by the way, the Doggers, Mark, the Doggers is a team made up of dog lovers, dog guide handlers, or anybody who's ever seen Lassie or Rin Tin Tin. It doesn't matter. The Doggers, you got to join the Doggers. We want you in the Doggers. I'm gonna do about 20 miles a week, 5 weeks. Yeah, I'll do about 20 miles a week. I'm sure I will. And I'm gonna register Onyx.
I'm going to register Prada too, and see how many miles. Let's see who can get the most miles, Prada or Onyx.
That's not fair because you are a runner. People don't know you've been to the top of Pikes Peak and back, the only blind woman to do that, maybe the only blind person. So, and again, USABA was a sponsor. It's a great
Mark
collaboration.
Lucas was my guide.
Oh, is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, there you go. Go team, go. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome, Kevin. And a couple of things with that, Kevin and others. So the United States Association of Blind Athletes partners with the Anthem Foundation to have people who are blind and visually impaired be more physically active. And so through this generous grant and gift from the Anthem Foundation, we've been able to impact more than 3,000 people over the course of the last 8 years, and partnering with agencies all across the United States, the San Francisco Lighthouse for the Blind, the Cleveland Sight Center, the Miami Lighthouse for the Blind, and the list goes on. And at each of these agencies rally the team of people who are blind and visually impaired to wear the Fitbit. It's a wearable device that tracks your steps on a daily basis. And through that Fitbit, that wearable device, we've had hundreds of people who are blind living a more healthy lifestyle by wearing this wearable device. And we have partnered with We Fit Wellness, NFB Colorado, and to have people from the state of Colorado live a more healthy lifestyle. So today, I walked to the bank instead of drove. My steps are still under 10,000. The CDC says 10,000 steps a day to lead a healthier lifestyle. And my goal is each day 15,000 steps. So get out there and get your 10,000 steps a day, people, because you will lead a healthier lifestyle by doing so. So tonight, when I get home, I will also try to get 4,000 more steps in tonight. Just how many steps you have today?
Oh, let me see. But just also, for folks that may not know, what was I gonna say?
While you're checking your steps, I want to say that in 8th grade, I got cut off the baseball team. And in 9th grade, I played in one football game in high school, and I was not active in sports at all. But one of the key, coolest things I ever did in my lifetime was having the privilege of running up and down Pikes Peak Mountain with you, Jessica Beecham. That was one of the highlights of my sports career.
That was a fun day. So that's 6,372, and I haven't gone for my run yet. So
All right,
I'll be
cool.
able to grab the rest of them.
Nice. Fantastic. We have another question. And does Jessica have a favorite sport that you participate in?
Oh, I love mountain trail running. That's my very favorite, ultra marathoning. I have hurt my foot a couple years back, and so I've had some trouble getting back. I've just recently been able to start getting back to running. So before pandemic, I was really enjoying CrossFit.
So let me ask you this question, Jess. It would seem to me that it would be easier for you to run on the road or sidewalks or a track as opposed to rocks on a trail and the up and downs and da 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 da. Why do you like trail running more?
I think, well, so there's a couple reasons for that. A, because things that are easy aren't that fun to me. I like to have challenges.
Right.
B, because when I'm just running on the road or running on a sidewalk or running on something very flat,
Right.
my mind isn't captivated. And so I get bored really easily running. I've done road marathons and that's fine, but they don't entertain me so much. And so then I find myself needing music or other distractions to be able to make it through. And on trails, there's always so much around, and as a blind person running trails, there's always so much to have to pay attention to that it definitely does fill that mental need for me.
And that's the same with me. One of my new jams now as I get older is mountain biking. And I've been riding my bike on the road, but that becomes it's boring. And so I want to ride my bike on trails and have that mental stimulation to challenge myself and that physical challenge. And so I think it's the same here. And so how do you run with a guide on a trail versus running on the road with the trail? What's the difference between that? And I saw it firsthand when we went up and down Pikes Peak Mountain, but tell the audience what that huge difference is.
So, for anybody who's blind and is interested in mountain trail running, there are lots of great alternative techniques to use. The first thing is having a guide who can be very descriptive. So, rock, root, step up, step down, maybe some descriptions about whether it's going to be a little or big step, of which you would have agreed upon what that means or looks like. I also use a trekking pole, much like a cane, so that I can check out what's going on to my right or my left, or when a guide says step down, I can see myself what that step down is going to look like for me with my trekking pole. Also, I don't tend to use I like to use a combination of my guide and my trekking pole, but a lot of people do like to use a more rigid tether with trail running. So like you could take a folding cane, or even you could take one trekking pole and just use the other one alongside as a cane. And sometimes I will do that if we're going through a really tight area. But a more rigid rigid tether than you would normally use with road running is really good. And I think it's a lot of work, honestly, for guides. I had actually, when we did Pikes Peak Marathon and when I did Pikes Peak Ultra, which was another 50-mile race, had two guides the whole time, because it's pretty taxing on one person to constantly have to pay attention to every little thing that is that's in your footpath. And so I honestly really say that trail running would be, and Prada and I can do some trails together, some simple trails, but technical trail running would be impossible without a great set of guides. And so I'm so grateful to Mark and to Dion and to Karen and Phil and Brennan and so many other guides from United States Association of Blind Athletes, from Achilles International, just from the community at large, who helped to make that happen.
Thanks for that. And it's our pleasure. And we're all part of the same team, and that's to live healthier lifestyles. So we're going to wrap it up tonight. But before we do, I'm going to ask, and it's the question of the century, Jess, and I'm pondering the answer to the question myself. And so if we both had a magic wand and we could wave it, and what do you think the long-term vision is for sports and recreation and physical activities for people who are blind and visually impaired? And what do we all need to do to get better in that sports and that space? I think we're good, but how do we get better, and what does it look like? And I think it's a question for all of us to think about. But do you have any thoughts in that space?
So I know that there are a couple things, the things that are out of our, or somewhat out of our control as blind people. Obviously, we can work on them from a policy standpoint, are that we need more accessible equipment. Everything from treadmills to bikes to ellipticals to the watches and heart rate monitors that we wear. We need equipment that gives us the same information that our sighted peers get from equipment. So we can sometimes use equipment, but we certainly cannot use it in the same ways that our sighted peers can, because there's so many options that are just not available to us, even if we can put a label on the start and stop button.
Right.
Or even if I can wear my Apple Watch and it has voiceover and it's really great, but it's not necessarily easy to get that same instantaneous feedback that you can get by glancing down at your watch while you're zooming down the hill. So we need that's one thing that we really need. Another thing is that online content and apps that people use for exercise and better nutrition need to be more accessible. And I think that if some of those things happen, as well as working towards decreasing those misconceptions that people might have as far as that whether blind people should be in a CrossFit class or should be able to go to a what's that, the ninja Ninja Warrior gym or something like that. But, to whether we belong in those spaces, if we could decrease those misconceptions and let people know that we belong in all spaces where recreation and leisure is happening, I think we would go a lot further in helping to be able to encourage each other to take those first steps and try it out.
Right. Well said. I hear you loud and clear, and that is the equipment, more accessible equipment, and breaking down those negative stereotypes. And that's why it's all important for us to continue to promote what we're doing in our spaces, both from a sports and recreation and physical activity. Jess, thanks for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. It's great to go ahead.
Oh, I just want to remind everybody you can register for the 6-Dash at www.6-co.com. That's www.6-co.com.
And Saturday is National Blind Sports Day. So wherever you are, and for those, wherever you are, go out and play and post what you're doing. And then those who are in Colorado and close to Colorado Springs, will be at America the Beautiful Park, downtown Colorado Springs, to do a fun walk and jog in the park on Saturday morning for National Blind Sports Day. And I'll have the honor of guiding Jessica Beecham around the park. It won't be as challenging as Pikes Peak, but it'll be just as equally as fun. So everybody get out there and make sure you register for 6-Dash. It's a fundraiser for the National Federation of the Blind. And don't forget to play on Saturday for National Blind Sports Day. Jess, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks,
everybody-
Kat.
Thanks, Jess.
And everybody have a fun evening, a great evening. Don't forget to get your steps in the rest of the night. You still have time. All right, everybody, take care.
Thanks.